late. All right. Welcome to the first Way Too Late reviews. This series is a set of videos that are about reviews of games that are way past their initial release date, or just when I had concluded and finished the game and I really wanted to review what my thoughts are, how the series goes, what my experiences was. I want to thank you for tuning in. I hope you enjoy the rest of the video, and let's get started. Dragon Age the Veilguard is probably one of my favorite and most fun games that I've been able to connect and really dive into the characters that have been on screen since I played Persona 5 for the first time. I didn't want the game to end. Every single character story felt real. I've been thrown into a group of people trying to solve a large, critical, crisis-like event. And things are awkward and weird at first. You're trying to be nice, but you don't really know the person, so you don't really know how they react in situations that are negative. So you really put off this kind of like cringy and awkward interaction early on where you're trying to get things across, but like, you know, you've all signed up for this adventure, but nobody's really getting it right. Nobody really knows each other. The only characters you really have a connection with early, it's easy because you've worked with them already. As you spend more time in the game and you solve more problems, characters start to open up. You really start to become one with these characters, start to mesh, and it becomes great. I feel like this game really asks the player to search for the empathy of others, look for empathy in the problems and the solutions, try to answer hard questions. You know the question or the answers aren't going to be easy, but I had a great time with that and really trying to move through those moments with the characters and with the game. I want to kind of start off with a disclaimer that I have not played a ton of Dragon Age games. This is my first that I've really dug my teeth into. I played Dragon Age 2 somewhat when I was much younger, when it had first come out on, you know, Xbox or whichever console it was. I had played it a little bit, but content creators that I follow and I play games and I watch their content of, such as like Kayla Elizabeth. Her channel will be linked in the description because her coverage of Dragon Age, her videos, all of that have really helped me learn a ton and really get excited for Dragon Age Veilguard in the first place. To start out on the technology side of things, on the screen here to my left, you'll have a list of what my current computer specs and the monitor I played on. From a gameplay wise and how I started it up, the game ran fantastic. I mean, I loved this game through and through. It played really well. I didn't really have to stress too much about making a bunch of adjustments, worrying about crashes. I did eventually have to cap my frame rate at 60. I played the beginning of the game with an uncapped frame rate to really see how it affected. I felt the dips were a little too hard on my older GPU, as you saw. 8 gigabytes of DDR6 really did start to get hindered in the 2K resolution range when you started to get to more intensive moments. Once I capped my FPS at 60, it was much more consistent. I really had a fun time playing the game. I got some heavy dips into the high 30s during combat, especially in areas with heavy rain or heavy storms or some sort of weather condition. That really put me at a disadvantage in those moments, but I did have a good time in those moments. I really just kind of had to stare my screen straight down and give my computer a second to really render in the environment. Once that was done, though, I felt it did a great job of putting me in the right place and relocking back in the FPS. Outside of that, I mean, it definitely has heavy loads on your CPU if you don't have a great GPU. My CPU was constantly taxed at about a 70%. But if I hadn't have capped my FPS, though, it almost always ran at the 99 to 100% mark, which is kind of why I put that cap in the first place, to really bring down the stress on my CPU. I do like to do stuff while I'm also gaming, but I tend to like watch a video or listen to music or whatever, so I had a really good time. But this is one of the few games where a lot of that actually got turned off because I was so invested, which means the cap necessarily wasn't needed, but it made me feel better because of how the game played. Through and through, though, at 2K resolutions, averaging around 60 FPS on an average basis, that's incredible to me. I think there aren't enough games that have come out recently where I really can push through a beautiful, intense environment with a ton of things going on and not see some sort of heavy performance hit. I really thought it did a great job of keeping performance steady. The maps and environments were visually beautiful while also giving across a sense of wonder and intrigue, especially since the environments were so diverse. It was nice. It was very nice to see. The game's visuals and mapping and the world itself made it really easy to get locked in and not be pulled out of the game and kind of get pulled out of that like moment of being a part of this experience. But really what sold me was the characters. Being able to hear them chat and run around when you're in the world, hearing the little jabs in the background and chit chat and the connections of the characters as they spend more time with you, it really helped me lock in and feel so connected to this game. But a real big thing that locked me in, especially in big moments or in moments of tonal change, was the music. I mean, the music in this game, as much as it's not the best music I've ever heard or what, it is appropriate, well coordinated, and intricate. Music for me never was the thing that used to sell me on video games. It's very hit or miss. I could take it or leave it. As I've spent more time getting older and more time developing a wider range of games I've played, and I've spent more time talking to other people, friends, acquaintances in the space who love video games, music has become such a fun concept to learn how much it can connect you to the world and to the game. With it being such a high response on most lists, outside of like the characters themselves or the story, music almost always puts this tonal impact. And the music in this game is, oh, I get it. I get it. I get that feeling. It's enticing, captivating. The immersion that you get while listening to this soundtrack puts you in those moments of the game when you're having the conversation with characters, or you're fighting a boss, or something critical has happened in the story. The tone is always appropriate, and it's always told properly for how the game is trying to depict them. And I love that we get that feeling out of this game. Now I'm going to put up a few snippets of the music in this game, and they'll pop up on my left here. Your right, my left. They'll pop up here with a little clip, and we'll just listen to it for a second. It's about 20 seconds of time, but it is some of my favorites will be coming up just so I can kind of describe where I'm coming from. There's one song called One Battle at a Time. It gives a somber tone. There's a background kind of musical track on top of what the main tone is that kind of alludes to hope, builds. You can feel the beat almost driving you forward, begging you for one more fight, keep pushing, keep moving. So we're going to go over that now, and we're going to spend about 20 seconds listening to a clip of that, and that's here. And I mean, that's just one of them, right? There's other songs like Down But Not Out has another one of those feelings of tone or that feeling from the song where the tone kind of locked me into the moment, kind of made me forget that other stuff was happening around me, and really made me think about what was happening in that very moment, what the purpose and the feeling was meant to be portrayed to the user. So again, we'll put that up on screen now. Now, both of those songs, you can see them on a channel called Original Soundtracks. I'll have it listed in the description below. But they really helped me understand the tone. I think I was getting a little lost early on because it did have that like cringy offside feel where you felt a little disconnected, but I felt like they were trying their best to kind of bring me in to the story that's been a tone setter for a long time, and they're trying to drag somebody who's new and understand how important and how critical these moments are. And I don't think that comes across without some of this music. Even just the music of maps when you're walking around it, right? Like not in a critical moment, not about something big. Even just the ambient music in Arlithan Forest, which we'll play a little snippet of again in a second, but it's light. It's almost gives a mystic feeling, kind of this, you're lost in a different world. Now, you are at this moment that a lot of this music is happening, you are trying to find the archive spirit in the game, and in that moment you kind of hear this background noise while you're exploring the area, trying to solve problems, getting into fights. This music is in the background, and it really helps give this almost mythical, flowery and light experience, even though you're in this incredible environment. The focus that you get from it, the if I wasn't taking all the time I needed to in this game, getting all the collectibles, trying to find all the chests, I think I would have missed it. You kind of put yourself in a situation where if you're not really taking the time, spending time thinking about where things could be on the map, you kind of get lost, and you don't really notice some of the nicer tones of the game with the music and the environment. The fact that this first playthrough I played through took about 55 to 60 hours, and I left that game with 40. I left this first playthrough with about 49 of the 52 achievements completed, and the 3 I missed just required small amounts of backtracking and replaying the end of the game. I think it's incredible. I mean, the fact that just doing every mission and talking to all the characters and, you know, making sure you get the highest rep possible with all the vendors, that's 49 of the 52 achievements, and I wasn't really doing all that much hunting, getting all the Fen Haral statues. You don't even have to get every chest, just getting all the Fen Haral statues. It really puts an understanding in the achievements of this game that I feel like getting to 100%. If you don't have 100% achievements, I feel like you miss so much of the critical character moments because they're tied to that. Getting characters to their Vanguard status, making sure that you spend as much time with these characters, learning the small intricate parts of them. I mean, the achievements, being able to put you in a spot where you also get like a secret ending. It's the best way to get the quote unquote good ending. It helps with all of those things that I think sometimes gets lost. You really are putting yourself in a bondable experience, and realistically, man, I keep coming back to it, but it's the characters, it's the companions, it's the people on your team that really, really sell this game. I mean, it is one of the most fun I have had with a group of cast. They're a bunch of misfit goofballs. They're drama queens. They're just annoying or passive aggressive. It's great. It's everything you would want. And I'm gonna go over some of the companions here and kind of list them out and talk about them. But that's what sold me on this game. The combat's great, all the other stuff's whatever, but the people and the characters you are spending time with are so diverse and interesting. There's such a great way to bond with them and learn and see through their lives. Really, that tone of feeling empathy, especially for the characters that you're meant to understand how big some of these moments are for them. It's incredible. I mean, I'm gonna start off with Balara, right? Like, Balara is probably one of those like interesting characters because she's meant to be kind of like head in the clouds, lost puppy who's really smart and way too good at what she does for her own good. But as you spend more time with her, the upgrades to her gear, all of this really sets this tone of her having to constantly make tough decision after tough decision and being comfortable with doing things that are uncomfortable for her. And even then, in the sequence where you spend time with characters running around and you hear the little stories of her trying to be, a hopeless romantic, or hoping that all the stories have good ending, the relationship between her and Nev as the game develops, even at the end of the game when you finish her story, you have Nev showing up to help with that and be a part of the group and really lock in on how much she is cared for and she has found another family. And that really is a tone this game does a great job of hitting. Is like, they are awkward as hell at the beginning. Nobody really fits, nobody really understands each other. By the end of this game, it's a second family. Everybody is doing whatever they can to... Harding is one of those characters that I tried to really like at the beginning. She's interesting. She's hard to understand for me. It's mostly because she feels like she kind of gets forced onto you. You don't really get to just meet her. She's one of the members, kind of the same as Nev. But her dialogue and the choices she makes, it takes a little bit to really understand why she's making the decisions she's making. And that's hard to get behind. I mean, until you really start to get more of that background to her about what happens to her race and why they're in this situation and what was a decision that was made hundreds of or tens of thousands of years ago, how it affects her currently and what that means to their past and how that works. And the person who's always looking for the positives, trying their best, fighting through everything. I mean, she never blinks, right? She's always excited, always has your back, everything. There is the one moment where she's red hot with rage, but I don't count that entirely. That's not all of her fault, but again, whatever. Play the clip. But she's just one of those two that you get from the beginning. Now, Neve. Oh my god. The sweetest bean of hope from Inrathis. Oh my god. I have never wanted to join a person's story after a game completed more than with Nev. She's rough. She has an edgy but like enjoyable banter about how she does things. She's still like serious and she's all about her city and she wants to keep protecting her people. This passion, it captivated me. I mean, I locked in, right? Immediately, I wanted to do anything I could to help this person. She's smart. She has good deductive reasoning. She has great stories. She has a good time. But she's always focused on the next thing, doing the next best thing. She's super compassionate. I mean, she's one of the few characters that you get to hear talk about their time with one of the other characters, like companion, like their like little member, Manfred. She's like spent time and gotten to know him. Her relationship with Bollara through the game just develops into this like older sister. The fact that she has so much compassion and helps Bollara at the end of the game and is that rock for her, it's so incredible. Now, I did choose Neve as the romantic interest for myself, so there's a little bit of bias here, and I'm fully aware of that. But she's incredible. I mean, her scene at the end where you get to finish the romance and actually succeed with everything, it's breathtaking. I mean, it has that fun and jovial and light experience that you would expect out of her, but it's real. It all came from moments of fear and being so scared of losing everything in front of them, just like she's had to do time and time again. And she's so frustrated. She feels so messed up about it. But it felt real. It felt like a real person who's made mistakes and tried to do the right decision, and all of it came to the same place and same head. And I loved it. I loved every moment of it. It spoke through me. I understood. I could empathize. I really could see it. And she just did everything she possibly could and captivated me from the beginning to the end. Just an incredible character with so much passion. behind her eyes when she's talking about what she's doing. I really have nothing else better to say. I mean, I really did love Neve to the end of the world and back. The next character I want to talk about is Davrin. Hard, like a tough man's man at the very beginning, but he's sweet. I mean, he's adorably sweet. By the time he gets to the end of the game, the little motherfucker, or I apologize for my language, that little cute ass griffin has softened that man to the end of the world and back. I mean, my god, he has just butter. He's butter. He is now butter. He was frozen butter. He is now butter. I don't know what to tell you. He's spreadable butter now. The care, the trust the two of them build through their side stories, understanding that Asan wants to be a good son in this instance, I guess is the good way to put it, because Davrin went from not having any responsibilities but stop the blight to I now have to raise a griffin on my own. On my own is relative. I mean, he has the whole rest of the team, but it's insane. I mean, he's just so it's so good. It's so incredibly good. I loved seeing the small little pieces where you got the in-between times with Davrin and he's working on another little sculpture and you see them slowly start to grow in his room over time and all the little knickknacks that he has built himself in the downtime. Oh, it's awesome. It's so awesome to see the world build around him and succeed. It's so cool to me. And then you get to the Veilguard option, where if you decide to choose the option where you let, and again, I'm trying to do as much spoilers, so this is a little bit of a spoiler. You let Asan and the other griffins live in Arlithan Forest. Asan choosing to go with Davrin, even though he should stay with the other griffins. It's so beautiful, man. I get it. I understand how much that means. It would be like if you walked outside and your favorite animal, your dog or cat that you have raised from the beginning of the end, you found out that their family is out there. Metaphorical sense, they understand this, right? I have no idea the brain aptitude of dogs and how they would handle the situation, but they can go live with their other family and their brothers and sisters and mom and dad, dog, whatever it is. I don't know how else to describe it. You let them go, you turn around, you're fully aware that it's over for you. This is the end. You're no longer going to see them. And you turn around and that motherfucker is hopping on both its hind legs trying to be like, what's up, daddy? I'm home. It's Papa. I apologize. Daddy's the wrong word. But that's what that was. It's so incredibly cool to see that scene help make those decisions. Connect like that to a story and a character felt so cool. I could see it. I could idolize it and put it into real words. I don't have anything else to say about Davrin. He's awesome. And I really enjoyed spending time with Davrin later in the game when I finally got a chance to really understand his character and story with the development. Lucanus is next. I mean, the smolder, the heart. This man is trying so hard to hide his feelings and how he felt. From the beginning of the game, he talks basically in contract talk. The contract is not complete. I have accepted a new contract. That's not his actual tone. That's what he sounds like in my head. It's hiding his true intent, the want to do those things. And then slowly but surely as the game goes, you start to get these emotional breaks. You start to see little cracks in the surface of his understanding of how much he's been betrayed and hurt. And then the pain when you if you choose to fail him with making a choice between Minrathous and I can't remember his city name. I'll put it on the screen. This is so upsetting for myself. I should have written it down. The break. I mean, you see it. He gets so frustrated with you, and he knows that you aren't at fault, but he's got to go back to his city and help, and you lose him for a while. And when you come back, he's hardened. His heart is closed up again. You have to earn his trust back. It's real. That's a real thing that happens. you've just met this person less than 10 days ago, and you just had to make a decision on whether or not to save his town or not, and you had to choose. You had to choose one or the other. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. It wasn't a hard choice for me. I'm saving Nev's town every step of the way, but don't get me wrong, I did feel bad after I saw the devastation when we finally visited, and I felt like because of my decision, I had to go help and rebuild that city as fast as possible and do everything there. And I immediately went there and did every quest possible because I felt guilty. Lucanus's reaction and his anger made me feel guilty. And that was incredible. I felt like I should have done a better job, and I couldn't do anything. There's a decision, 101. That's it. It's all you got to do. But I still felt like I should have done more. And that's a perfect way to portray what's supposed to be happening here. When he does finally open back up, especially if he's hardened, you don't really get a choice to see what he does with his with the demon that's forced inside of him. But I mean, I can't fault him for that. That's a decision he has to make on his own. But I still think he's an incredible character, being this pro assassin. At the end, he starts to make the right decisions for himself, and I think that's all you can ask for. He does what he thinks is necessary for himself, and that's awesome. Oh my god, my sweet summer dead Fred Emmerich. Oh, yes. Oh, knowledgeable, intriguing, has some weird obsession with the souls of the dead, but it's kind of cool. He's so careful and passionate, and he has this fucking incredible connection with his little companion buddy Manfred. The fact that Manfred is available to play rock paper scissors shoot with is awesome. It's a cool ass thing. It is so awesome that it is in the game and a part of this story, and I love it. It's so good because it lets you know that, like, yes, it's all connected. Manfred is just a goofball, and it's awesome, to Emmerich's serious and, polished, profound behavior, but he still has this unending fear of moving his career forward because of what it means to his personal self, and making decisions, and having him be known so well by, like, Bollara at the beginning when you go to first meet him. He felt complete. I mean, he's one of the few characters that you meet, and, like, no decision you make during the game is really going to affect the way he decides to do something at the end, but the trust you gain from him from spending time with him, he lets you have input in that final decision, is incredible. I mean, you do so much together in such a short period of time, it just makes sense. I mean, he's so interestingly polished that I have enjoyed the conversations you have with him, the moments of his growth over the fear. It's awesome, and I can't ask again for another character as a companion that felt good to use in a party, let alone as a story companion. Next is Tosh. She's a little lost and confused, but that's mostly because she's never had to do anything for herself, or literally for herself. Everything she's been stuck between two worlds the entire time, being Romani, being QUI, I think it's spelled. I'll have to look it up. I'm really sorry. I'm not a Dragon Age expert. I'm, again, first game, trying my best here. They always try to do what's best for everybody else. I mean, they don't start making decisions for themselves until the characters in the game start pushing them. I mean, until we, as the group, start to push them into a decision to think for themselves, they don't question why they feel like they don't belong anywhere. They don't think about any of it until we go, hey, what do you feel? And they start to make the decisions for themselves. And those decisions are important to how the interactions Tosh makes later on to help us with dragons, and her competency and her drive. All of that helps her grow. And I'm so sorry, I keep saying her. They grow. Tasha's decision to become non-binary, even though it felt quick, I've seen decisions like that in real life, and saying the proper pronouns for them is so critically important, and a moment that I think a lot of people might have missed, especially with the way this game kind of tells stories, is after the fight with Tasha's mother into the next part of the campaign where her story where you go to get her mom back. Her mom isn't on board at that point, but right before she makes a last ditch attempt to save them and do something good for Tosh, she says they have nothing to do with this. She uses the proper pronouns as her mother in that last ditch to get her out of a jam. And yes, she dies for it, but it hit me right there. I got it. That's the decision a mother makes. They do whatever they possibly can to save their kid. I felt it. I understood. Plus, I mean, any character who's passionate and incredibly knowledgeable about dragons, I'm on board. I'll fucking take it. That's the shit I'm here for. I'm a dragon nerd, and I'm here for it. Having a dragon slayer on the team, I respect it. I'm on board. Whatever you want to do, that's fine. Look, the game was sold to me as a bunch of adventurers finishing a story that's been around for forever. And that's what I got. I mean, look, the story was pretty straightforward. I could tell what was and wasn't going to happen at the very beginning. There was always going to be betrayal. There was always going to be heartache and decisions that you didn't want to have to make, but you had to. But it was rewarding. As a new player, I felt like I got exactly what I was supposed to, especially with getting the quote-unquote good ending. I don't know which ending, if it's really good or not. Again, I'm not a Dragon Age nerd, but I am a nerd, but not specifically for Dragon Age. Heads up, I am nerd. Back there. Whatever. For 60 hours at a $60 price tag, with the performance it gave and the feelings I got and the pain and the heartbreak and the laughs and the love I felt for these characters, it was worth it. I loved this game, and I know it's not perfect. I don't expect it to be perfect. I'm not gonna ever say this is a perfect game, but it really spoke to me, and the characters really put it into perspective for me. They really are what sold me on this game. The gameplay's great, and I'll get into those ratings in a second, but yeah, I mean, the story itself was fine, but the characters are what got me. So anyway, I do reviews a little bit differently, or at least in my own personal ranking style, I do them differently. I have four categories. One of them is definitely more important to me than others, because I don't give a shit if a game is bad. If it performs well, at least I can enjoy it and get through it, and I'll give those elements a bad review. But I'm going to start out with gameplay. Personally, it's one of the best combat systems I've ever had in a game. I felt the support team elements, it was intuitive, it was easy to get along with. The skill trees were great. It felt like it was easy to level up and understand how you were leveling up. The armor upgrade system, the how you sell items specifically to certain vendors to get more rep or more money, it's all well thought out and really appreciated as a player. Everything was easy and intuitive. The hardest part for me was the camera movement. It really struggled in sprinting sections. If you tried to move your mouse, especially at low DPIs, it felt like the camera was trying to force you back another way. It loses a point for some of the weird stuff in the game. You know, the jumping mechanics, some of the climbing elements, it's just a little buggy here and there, but it's like a 9 out of 10 for me in gameplay. I could not ask for a more complete gameplay series from a game that I wasn't expecting good combat from. I've been told over and over and over again that combat in Dragon Age games was never the selling point. And to me, that it hits home. Environment for me, it's a 9 out of 10. I mean, I never felt like I was pulled out of it because something didn't feel right. I didn't feel like I was in a fantasy setting. It was beautiful in the right moments. It was dark and brooding in others. The world felt alive, right? With the aspects of environmental storytelling, the crossroads being a great interconnection point of the maps. Not doing open world made the environments feel more locked in. It felt like I didn't just have random places to wander. They really had intention with the level design. I never really got that disorientated in the maps. I mean, and the music really tied the environment together and really put me in a great headspace for how this game really felt. You know what I mean? Story wise, I'd probably say about a 7. To me, this game's story is carried by its characters. The companions itself are incredible and intense. I even think Solus does a great job of getting across this this trapped figure who's obviously going to betray me at some point. You see it from the start, but his story is told so well during the game, and you get kind of a recap, but the overarching story felt kind of straightforward and felt like I could kind of see it. So it's about a 7 out of 10 for me. It felt really straightforward, but I mean, if it was as straightforward as the story and the characters weren't as good, it would be like a 5. I mean, honestly, it's a story that's compelling. It's just the characters really bump up that score for me, almost 2 full points, because they drive the background for me. They give me the intent of trying to be a better series. Now, here's the rare one for me that I don't think a lot of people are going to look at: performance. With how the gaming space has become, with a lot of games releasing in really bad states, this is one of the best releases I've ever played. I walked into this game with small bugs, minor complaints, like the fact that the shaders would take forever to load. But, man, 8.5 out of 10, 9. I still think it's too CPU intensive. My chip's only 3 or 4 years old, and it struggled to keep the CPU usage down. It's a heavily intensive game, but, man, it had so little bugs that the performance to get to 60 FPS at 2K was easy, and it didn't feel like I was ever really having major hiccups. You know, the crashes were caused by me being overzealous with what else I was doing on my computer. If I didn't do anything else and I played the game and, you know, was enjoying the experience and I wasn't talking to friends on Discord or streaming a video in Discord, talking to friends, it performed beautifully. And I think that really put it in its own space. And last but not least, the overall. I put it around at 8.5. I mean, look, it's not a world beater. It's not going to be the game of the year. It's never going to do that. But for me, it falls in that category of game of play it. Find a way to get it for cheaper than what it came out as. I put the price tag at under $47, right around the $50 mark. If you find the game for anything under $50, buy it and play it. It's an easy 60-hour adventure. I enjoyed the hell out of it. If you take it for what it is, which is meant to be a growth story, a story of finding hope, of understanding and empathizing the problems of the world, and putting the burden on a single character's back and having them grow and develop, it does a great job. And I think overall, the biggest hindrance is the story, which is sad, but it's still awesome. I couldn't ask for a better game to have played and put 60 hours in. And those are my thoughts. Thank you guys so much for watching. For the people who I mentioned in the video, Kayla Elizabeth, original soundtracks, and slow walkthroughs, they're the 3 channels I talk about in this video. Their videos will be in the description, so you can at least take a look if you want to. Please be kind to each other. Game opinions are meant to be opinions, but I thought this game was fantastic. I understand I'm not a Dragon Age long-term fan, and there may be context I don't have, but this story as a 10-year story, or coming out 10 years after the game originally came out, or the last game came out, I think it did a fantastic job. It felt like an old Mass Effect game to me. It felt goofy. It felt like it controlled weird, and the story was a little whatever in some places, but the companions are awesome, and their story is cool, and solving their world problems means more than solving the end of the game to me in some instances in the original Mass Effect. I think they did what they were supposed to, and I really appreciate that. So thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. Please leave a like and subscribe. And until next time, this has been a Way Too Late review. Peace.